Welcome to the inner world of Orange. Today we're going to talk about a relationship to an ideal or to a human being and consciously choosing between those. My recommendation is to make everything conscious. There is no difference from my point of view between someone who chooses to have a stable relationship with one human being and someone who chooses to have a series of flings with many human beings but to have a stable relationship with his or her ideal. I don't make a judgment about whether one is better than the other. I just think that everyone ought to make this decision in a conscious way so that they are willing to handle whatever comes up on that path that they've chosen. So here is again this conflict between a thought structure that's built up by the ego for the ego. You know, I'm this and this kind of person, so I need this kind of a partner who must have these characteristics. That's a very that's something that only an ego can come up with. And then that comes crashing against a reality which is just a human being just like you, who is not going to conform to any structure, and you would actually need to build an entirely new structure to accommodate him or her. Like you have to break down the one that you had, start from the beginning, and build one that is actually getting to be more accommodating to what's reality. And is that worth it for you? I think that's the question that people who are looking for a relationship have to answer. Whether they're willing to give up their idea of the ideal relationship that they have right now and grow into a truly ideal relationship, which might not, and most probably would not be their ideal right now. Because that's the other thing about a relationship that I think is genuine, is that it changes you. That the person who enters the relationship is not going to be the same as the person who is living it. So you can't possibly tell actually what the ideal relationship would be for you as a person in an ideal relationship, if you see what I mean. You know, you, the person who is not yet in a relationship, cannot know who you're going to become when you are in that relationship, and what ideals then you will have at that point in time. So that it's almost inevitable that the structures that you've built right now are not going to last. And in my experience, I hated it, and I know lots of other people hated it too. And it's really a question of, well, do you hate giving up this more than actually living it, or not? You know, which one is more important? And I've known people who have chosen both, in both directions. There have been people who have chosen to give up their ideals, that's built up by their ego, in order to live in a relationship that's genuinely accommodating to another human being. And there have been people who are not. And these people tend to be the ones who have relatively short relationships, because it's not actually about the other person usually. You know, since they are not willing to give up their preconceived ideals, as soon as the other person do not conform to these ideals, which is inevitable because those ideals have very little to do with the reality of that person, and they're not, and if the person is not willing to give up these ideals in order to reach the human being, then they will throw away the human being, you know, and move on to the next relationship. So that is a possibility too, you know. And it's really a choice. There's a choice between do I want to live with my ideas, and then for a person who has these relationships which are kind of these, you know, serial relationships that are not very long, where they start off on cloud nine and then inevitably get disappointed. What they are having a relationship with is actually not the other person, but with their ideals, and that in itself can be a very long-term relationship. There might be people who for 10 years will say, well, my ideal man is this and this and this, and that never changes. That relationship can be very stable. It's just that the people that fill this ideal are not stable. So you have to choose. You can't have both your ideals and the same human being. You either have to change your ideals or you have to change the human being, but you can't, it's impossible to find a human being that's going to so completely fit your ideals in every particular that neither of them are ever going to have to change. So for me, that is really the crux. It is about knowing what you want and what you're looking for. I like to think of the bottom line, and so this is perhaps a little bit unromantic, but it's really, what must I give up in order to have what I would like to have in my life? Because there is always something you have to give up. If there wasn't, then you would already have it, right? So the surrendering of an aspect of yourself is inevitable. And for the people who say, I want a relationship with another human being, and for that I'm willing to do practically anything, that's legal, I would suggest that you're gonna have to be willing to sacrifice your idea of what a relationship looks like. And for the people who say, well, I'm not willing to sacrifice that idea, I like the idea of my ideal man, my ideal woman, my ideal relationship, I like the thrill of finding people who's going to fit that ideal, then I think you're going to have to sacrifice the need to complain when you're disappointed, because the disappointment is the price that you have to pay for having that ideal, for staying with that ideal and preferring that ideal to the real human being. And that's okay, it's a choice, but you have to decide. You have to decide which pain is more painful for you as a person individually. It's a very personal decision. And it's impossible to know which one any particular individual would choose. You see it from their actions, but most of the time these actions are not conscious. So my recommendation is to make that conscious decision, so that when you get the bill, which is either, oh, I thought this is what I wanted and now I'm going to have this, and yeah, I have to give up what I thought I wanted. That's a bit painful, and being disappointed in a relationship is also painful, but there's going to be a bill either way, so you have to decide which one am I willing to pay, and when it comes, take it and try not to complain about it, because it's a conscious decision and it's what you've decided to do, in this world. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.